Anyways, we'll get things started off with Blood Harvest from 1987. This one is about Jill, who's visiting home from college. She arrives to find her parents missing and their home is vandalized. Some people get killed in the barn next door, but I don't know, there's not much I can really go into about the plot without really giving much away, I think. This is obviously a movie that I've been wanting to see for a while, mainly because, it's a horror movie with a clown in it. And for people out there who know me, I tend to enjoy watching clown horror movies. Now, I went into this one thinking the clown would be the killer. And I guess, not so much a spoiler, but the clown is not the killer. Just ends up being a bit of a mentally handicapped type person. There's, before I get into too much about it, just in general, I have very mixed feelings about this movie. I'm not quite sure if I actually liked it or disliked it, or I think I kind of found it somewhat mediocre. Somewhere in the middle, I guess. But yeah, like I said, before I get into more about that, what did you think?
Well, this is a movie I've seen once before, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And I thought it was interesting back then. There were a few scenes that, months after the movie, that still stuck out in my mind. So I was sort of interested in seeing it again. And even now, while it may not be a great movie, I think there's some really interesting things here. There's at times it feels like a cheap late 80s slasher, but then they also throw in some emotional punches, I think, at times, and also some rather creepy sexual assault going on. So I think there's a lot of things here that are decent. I'm just not sure if the final product was as good as it could have been.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of nudity in the movie. It's just really weird too. It's like the director really tried to get some titty shots, and I noticed there's one scene where he's kind of like panned up to their faces, and he just randomly pans down at the tits. And it didn't seem necessary, but hey, I appreciate that sometimes.
On a related note, it looks like this is the only movie that the main female actress did, so it's a shame because she certainly had a beautiful body.
Well, maybe after doing this one, she's like, fuck that shit.
You have to get you naked for Tiny Tim. She may not have just been feeling it anymore.
By the way, I mean, I know the name Tiny Tim, like I've heard it heaps. To be honest, I've never really known why he's somebody. Like I don't really know anything about him.
I mostly know him from, he had a few really cheap ukulele songs back in I think the late 60s, early 70s that have gotten a lot of either on commercials or just on TV, like airplay over here. So there's certainly some songs by him I in a way grew up with just by hearing them so many times, but that's I think pretty much all he's really known for.
Yeah. Well, I know he does that one silly song they play in Insidious, the original Insidious.
Was that Tiptoeing Through the Tulips?
Yeah. In fact, I was looking at the Blu-ray special features for this one, and it's got this full concert, concert might be a stretch, performance of him playing songs for, I guess, over an hour.
Huh.
I watched maybe the first 5-10 minutes of it, but
it's probably not your style of music.
No, not really. But he did play that specific song that was in Insidious, so yeah, that was interesting, I guess.
And here in Blood Harvest, he has the Avocacci, was it Jack and Gary and Jill go up the hill, so that's always fun. He has a beautifully high voice.
Yeah, he he just seems to just randomly sing all over the place. I wouldn't even be surprised if he's on the toilet and he's like, I'm on the toilet, I'm taking a nasty shit. He'd do, I don't know, he's just a fucking weirdo.
Well, after what his character goes through, can you blame him?
Beulah. No, Beulah, my favorite pig. Yeah.
Actually, I do think that scene where he's just sort of singing and sobbing in the church is actually a decent scene. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous, but it's emotionally resonant. So.
Yeah, I was thinking during that one scene, I just thought it was pretty uncanny how similar that church looked like the one that I used to go to when I was young. But anyways, I guess one of the other things that I wanted to quickly mention was the sheriff in the movie, who is just one of the laziest sheriffs I've ever seen in a movie. He's like, he gets a complaint about, someone smashing window and vandalizing the house and all this kind of stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I got a softball game." It's like, what? You want me to go to your house right now?
Hey, to his credit though, he actually did show up eventually. So.
Yeah, he seemed pretty useless.
He still may not be the best sheriff out there.
He probably self-appointed himself as sheriff.
Yeah. And actually that's another interesting, I think, to me, how a lot of this the backstory revolves around the girl's parents are missing, and the father worked for the bank, and a bunch of farmers have been evicted. So there's a bit of an almost economic undercurrent in this. So I just thought that was an interesting thing I noticed.
It seemed like it didn't take too long to realize that Tiny Tim in the movie is not the killer, obviously, but I mean, I picked it out pretty quickly, to be honest. In fact, there's multiple of these movies that we've discussed today. Well, the other one, Cherry Falls, we'll talk about that next, but yeah, I found this one pretty easy to guess who was doing all of this, and so there wasn't much mystery to it, or at least if they felt there was, I guess, they didn't do a great job in that area, but hey, it's a cheap 80s slasher, so.
How do you feel about that one guy just dragging the woman and just stripping her down every night just to take pictures? Some quality. I mean, that's dedication, I guess. But God.
Anyways, like that guy said, he said, "I don't want my innocence back. I just want the feeling of losing it again." Like, well, if he wants that, he should just have someone give him anal.
I'm sure that was out of rage back then.
I don't feel like there's a whole lot to this movie. I mean, it's at least plot-wise, there's not. Maybe psychologically there is, but I've never been a huge fan of psychological aspects of movies, so at least I'm very picky with it.
Yeah, so like I said, I've seen Blood Harvest once before, and it stuck out primarily due to the presence of Tiny Tim, which I thought was interesting. I think Blood Harvest is a decent movie. I think the goal is okay for what it is. It's certainly not amazing, but it's a movie I could see myself watching again in the future. So while it's below average, I don't think it's disastrously below average. I'm going to give this a 6.5, and I think I'm just going to round up to an average rating of a 7.
I'm still I'm deciding somewhere between a 5 and a 6. I think
Follow your heart.
Yeah. Look, I'll be generous. I'll give it a 6, but I'm not so sure. But yeah, okay, I'll give it a 6 for now. We'll see how it goes next time. Speaking of which, I mean, the Blu-ray that I've got says it's been essentially like released edited on all previous versions, basically. So, do you happen to know if you've watched the fully uncut version, like this Blu-ray?
To be honest, I do not. I would be surprised if I did. I didn't really perceive anything different from the version I watched this time to the one I saw like 5 years ago, so I'm just going to assume it's the original.
Yeah. It's probably got some less nudity and stuff, but Anyways, this, I'm just reading the back of the Blu-ray, and it says, where is it? Long available only in heavily cut and grey market editions. So this one is now fully uncut, uncensored, and newly restored from its recently discovered original camera negative. Well, there you go. Anyways, of course you'd want to watch uncut version of a movie. To be honest, I get the feeling that it's not going to
change much,
make a huge difference to how well you enjoy it. But anyways, I'm sure it's better that way than edited.